Welcome to the OLV Daily Reflection for Saturday, January 9th. Today's Gospel passage comes to us from the 3rd chapter of St. John's Gospel. It reads, Jesus and his disciples went into the region of Judea, where he spent some time with them baptizing. John was also baptizing in Aenon near Salim, because there was an abundance of water there, and people came to be baptized, for John had not yet been imprisoned. Now a dispute arose between the disciples of John and a Jew about ceremonial washings. So they came to John and said to him, Rabbi, the one who was with you across the Jordan, to whom you testified, here he is baptizing, and everyone is coming to him. John answered and said, No one can receive anything except what has been given from heaven. You yourselves can testify that I said I am not the Christ, but that I was sent before him. The one who has the bride is the bridegroom. The best man who stands and listens for him rejoices greatly at the bridegroom's voice. So this joy of mine has been made complete. He must increase, I must decrease. Today's gospel passage is similar to many other passages found throughout the gospel, where there's arguments and disagreements about the actions of Jesus. However, in this case, St. John the Baptist very quickly resolves the situation with the final line of today's selection. He must increase, I must decrease. So St. John the Baptist is affirming that he is not the Christ, so that everything he did was in preparation for the Christ, the anointed one of God. St. John the Baptist also adds that Jesus is the bridegroom, the one who people were waiting for to fulfill their deepest desires. Therefore, the people were waiting for Jesus and not for him. Now, the statement of St. John the Baptist at the end of the Gospel puts forth a strong theological argument in that any one of us, including St. John the Baptist, needs to always put God before any of our personal desires. He must increase, I must decrease. What does this mean for our lives? This means we need to turn away from sin. This means we need to focus on living lives of prayer and service. This means that our decision making is to be aligned towards doing God's will for our lives and not necessarily what we want for our lives. And this list could go on because the desire that Christ's light should shine more brightly through our lives means that nothing's off the table. Every aspect of our lives is truly an opportunity to have God's grace truly increase in our lives and our personal wants and desires to decrease to the point where we focus on God's will and God's will alone. However, in our individualistic culture that we currently live in, this surrendering to God, this surrendering to his Son Jesus Christ would not be understood. As I mentioned the other day in the daily reflection, personal freedom in the contemporary culture is understood as being absolute. We can do whatever we want, with whomever we want, when we want. However, if we use our freedom in the correct and appropriate way, we're using our ability to choose in a way where we choose God's will. Not our will, not someone else's will, but God's will alone. He must increase, I must decrease. And sisters and brothers, if we can do this, again, we'll be orienting our lives towards our deepest desire. We'll be orienting our lives towards God's love, God's mercy, and not wasting our time searching for things that do not fulfill us. They truly are just a waste of our time. But it takes a lot of effort and prayer to figure out, where do I have to decrease so that God can increase? So if anything, letting God be a larger part of our lives means that we do not have to work at finding other things to fill it. Our greatest desire is already met every time we put God first and strive to do that in all aspects of our lives. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us.